This episode of the Beauty Industry podcast was brought to you by Issada Mineral Cosmetics and Clinical Skincare. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here, we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today, my guest is Sara Whithorn from Issada. Business development is so much more than just a visit from a sales rep and a quick coffee and gossip. Utilising your business development manager to access their strengths and industry experience is beneficial to your business success no matter what stage of business you're at. Sara saw this opportunity looking outside inwards to the beauty industry, and with a change of career as a mature age therapist, didn't waste any time taking these moments for granted. With a newfound passion, Sara set her sights on climbing the ladder of the beauty industry, which, might I add, she has done so incredibly fast, and today she holds space in the Issada team under the leadership of Deb Farnworth-Wood, who she looks up to as a mentor. Today we talk gratitude, taking leaps, and why you should make the most out of your BDM visits. Here's Sara and I for Beauty Industry. Sara, welcome to the Beauty Industry podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. I am always appreciative. As we were just saying offline before we press the record button, you guys are absolutely busy bananas over there. So I really appreciate an hour of your time to sit down.
It is so busy. I don't think any of us anticipated how busy we would get. And of course, we've had a move while Issada has just gone kaboom. But we all just love it so much that it's not, even though we're busy, it's not busy. We're all very excited, having different conversations all day, every day.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. It's funny that you classify that busy, because sometimes we are like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I really don't want to go into work tomorrow. Or there's like, I'm excited to be busy and I thrive off that busy energy. I never really thought about that until you just said that.
Yeah, totally. We're all on the same page with it. You know, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll write down an idea and I'm like, it's another 3 hours until it's like acceptable to be up.
Totally. I'm like one of those early birds as well, where if I'm awake, I'm just like pretending the whole world's awake. And so I'm like sending text messages and voice messages. And I always like preface this with, please do not answer this until you are awake. But if it doesn't come out of my mind right now, it's just going to get lost in the train of thought.
We have some incredible stockists and partners over in WA, and sometimes I forget about the time difference. And thankfully, got great relationships with them all. And I've done that, and I'm texting, going, "Oh, hey, look, I know it's early, but I just found out da 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 da." And then I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for them."
Oh, that's so funny. So, hey, let's get into the chats. As a podcast listener yourself, you would know our very first question is, how did you get into the beauty industry? And I want to start with you there today.
Look, mine's probably a little bit different. I have always loved all things skin, not so much makeup until recently. My mum, I guess it started, my mum she's got a lot of disabilities. And she was born with them. And so she's never been able to, have a job. She's always had a lot of medical appointments that she's had to go to. So the honest truth is nobody would employ her because they'd have to give her too much time off. But mum being mum, always wanted to give me and my brothers, the very best of everything. So, oh my goodness, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. She found a brand, it's called Oriflame. I don't even think they're around now. And she found a little bit of a side hustle so she could get a little bit extra to take us on holidays and, do all of the things. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, what's this? And I would use all of the skincare. And then she progressed to be the Avon lady. And when I was at school, like hair, skin, makeup was all the things I was interested in. Look, my husband and I became parents before we planned to become parents. So, we threw ourselves into it. And, I went out to work when our eldest was 18 months old. I didn't have any qualifications. And I worked part-time evenings in a factory. Then I worked in a call center just because the hours suited. I wasn't bothered what I did. And then I discovered Virgin V Cosmetics. And that became my side hustle. So I've never been to college. I just didn't have the time, the money, the funds. And I guess that was just my mentality, because I could have made the time, found the money, done the things. And I really enjoyed being part of that business, but without having to give up the day job, even though it was an evening job, so to speak. So it wasn't until I came to Australia that I thought, no, you've got to do this. You've come for a change of lifestyle. And I met a very wonderful woman after I trawled heaps of beauty colleges, only to learn that they didn't have any flexible learning. I knew I didn't want to do online learning. And I found this beautiful, beautiful little beauty school. And Denise Doyle, the owner, said, okay, I will allow you to come in one day a week, because I still had to work. I still had to have an income. I had the mortgage. The kids were still in school. And I did my diploma of beauty therapy, and it has literally changed my life. It is the best thing I've ever done. So I was the oldest student in the class. So I would have been 34.
Yeah, right.
Studying my diploma of beauty therapy, and then it just grew from there. And I've done my TAE a few years later, done my laser, done all of the things.
Yeah, amazing. How did you find that experience being a mature age therapist? Actually, you're the first mature age therapist that I've spoken to, so I'm really keen to hear that.
Oh, I found myself, because even though I was learning at the same time as the other students, and the youngest students, oh, I don't want to go in today. And I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are. I wish I could come in 5 days a week. I can only come in 1 day a week because I still had to have my income. So I still had to work. And it was really funny. Up until that point, I read a lot of fiction. Literally from the day that I started my diploma of beauty therapy, I haven't read anything fiction since. I then thought all of my spare time was reading about all things beauty, skin, products, applications, and I'm now, I'm on the podcast, you can't see, I've got my bookshelf behind me, I've got everything from all of the things industry to how to change a life, positive thinking, everything's really self-help. So I had a massive appreciation of just being able to have the opportunity to take control and work in an industry that I had a genuine interest in. I remember my husband, I had a really good job at the time, really good job. And I, had several promotions, and my husband thought I'd lost my mind, as did my boss. It was like, what? You've got a company car, you've got a great salary, what's going on? And I remember saying to him vividly, and to my boss at the time, who thankfully, let me have one day off a week to be able to study. I said, look, it's not like the old days. We will be working until we physically can't.
Mm.
I need to do something I'm actually interested in. And that was a real pivotal point for me. I had to go to the bank and borrow the money because I wasn't an Australian citizen, so I didn't qualify for any vet. My husband was not having a bar of it. Why would you want to do this? And I went off to the bank by myself, borrowed the money, and just made it happen.
Yeah, right. Oh, what a brave move. I don't think everybody has it in them to leave a really stable job and take that leap.
Yes, I was very. It was a leap of faith. I knew I could do it, and I also knew the opportunities that were out there, because I remember my boss at the time. He's a great friend, the great friends of ours now still, and he's like, "What? You're going to give up this to go and wax legs?" And that's not all that there is to it. But yes, I'm going to learn about that as well. And I just knew, and don't get me wrong, I had 12 months where I didn't know if I would make it financially. I really didn't. When it came to the pointy end of my diploma, I had to, quit my job because one day a week wasn't enough for me. I wanted to get to the finish line so I could get into industry. And I remember walking around, a supermarket, I won't say any names, with my then prepaid phone that had no credit on it, calculating my groceries as I was going around, because at that time I took on a bar and waitressing job that was one day a week. If I was lucky, I'd get 2 or 3 shifts. So money was very, very tight. And I remember always thinking I was only ever a couple of days away from having my internet and everything disconnected. And it was a year of growth. That also changed my life. I'd never been in a position where I didn't have to think, oh my goodness, what meals are we going to have? How many times can I drive the car this week? I've never had that before, and thankfully, touch wood, haven't had it since.
Yeah, wow, interesting. What a humbling moment for you. How did you find industry once you graduated and got out? Was it everything that you had hoped for?
And more, and more. I just threw myself into everything, every workshop, every book, every event, every product, everything. I was consumed, and I just loved it. And because my daughters were older then, I could do that. And I could say to them, oh look, we can't do that this week or this month because this is tied to, and they were at an age where they could understand. And the industry has just been so welcoming to me. I've been really humbled by everything that I've done in the industry. It's been so varied, even though it's been not a very long space of time.
Yeah, very interesting. And I want to ask you then, from therapist, how did you make that next move? Because you have been in business development and you've been in education. And I also read that you have even been a career advisor. So I want to kind of touch base. How did you go from being a therapist and finding your passion there to going, actually, maybe there's something more here, but in the same space?
I realized fairly quickly that business development was always the job I'd had in the past, the work that I'd done, just in different industries. And I kind of realized fairly soon that I knew the treatments that I like to do, as most of us therapists do. And it was the lady who was the principal of the school that I went to, the beauty school. She said, Sara, I don't think you're going to be a therapist for very long. And I said, why is that? She said, I can see your brain is constantly ticking over. And she threw me an olive branch, a leaf, an opportunity where I rented a space from her in the school, but I used all of her higher end equipment, and I worked for myself. And I ran that as and it's quite funny, it was the ABC, it was the Advanced Beauty on the Circuit. And again, I realized a good few months in that, oh my goodness, you've got to do marketing, you've got to do the ordering and procurement and everything. And I wasn't, and I'm still not very good at the famine and feast. I have now learned that I am at my best when I am employed. Rather than being, a business owner. I like to have my fingers in lots of pies. And then she wanted to grow her business. And she reached out to me, and together I helped her forge a partnership with a bigger beauty school that allowed her to work with them so that her students could use the vet funding that she hadn't had, she was never a part of before. She just wasn't big enough to. And from there, I was like, this is me. It's the business development side in the industry that I am passionate about and love. And from there, I did my teaching qualification. And when we forged that partnership with this bigger brand, I then taught. I realized I would probably end up in jail if I was still teaching. I just didn't have the patience, for students that didn't really want to be there. I think because I'd been a mature student and had a different story, I would say to them, if you don't want to be here, then why are you here? And that's when I then had the opportunity to be a content writer for a diploma. And then I was a course advisor for a big school. And when I was in there, I loved my work. I loved my team. I loved my campus. In fact, I used to commute from Tweed Heads to Brisbane 5 days a week. I used to drive to Varsity Lakes, jump on the train, and then I would get on the train to Roma Street 5 days a week because I loved what I did so much. And the only reason I left there and went to the position I was in before I came to Issada, I could see what was happening with vet. I could see that and it broke my heart to leave there. I was like, but when you just know in your gut.
Yeah.
And my wage halved when I made that move. And then 6 months later, all the changes happened, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Very, very cool. I love that so much. You've got such a good passionate about you, and it feels so nice that you come into our industry without privilege, and you've got that that humble base, because I think, as you were talking about, with the students, this industry looks very glamorous from the outside, and then we see a lot of privilege come through with our therapist, especially this day and age. So it's quite nice to have somebody who has those really humble roots and who's changed the career course and gone, actually, this is a really special place that you're in, and we should actually acknowledge that. When it comes to our industry, we often get stuck in the everyday, and I know this to be true of therapists, and we don't often look towards like the next step or the plan on how we get there. Do you think that our industry should be looking at our jobs as lifelong careers rather than just the job that pays the wage?
Absolutely. And I say this to a lot of our, in, my current and previous roles, it's a therapy, beauty therapy. If you're not in it, how can you serve? How can you do your best? How can you expect people to come to you if you're thinking, oh, another Brazilian, or oh, it's another this or another that? Our industry is so huge. There are so many diverse opportunities. And I don't have a lot of patience with therapists or business owners that with me. You know, I'm there to help them. I share my story with them because I've had my fingers in a lot of pies, a lot of experiences. You know, I can connect them with different organizations, different, as you know, every single time I've gone into a school, whether it be a government school or private, I always tell the students, jump onto Beauty. This is where you need to be. And it's all about connecting people. And so I feel that it's a career. It's not a job. If it feels like a job, you could just be in the wrong area of the industry. Or perhaps it's just not the industry for you. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle.
Yes. Oh, you're so right there. And I love that you said there, firstly, if it's a job for you, you might not be in the right area of the industry, right? Because that was for me when I figured out, okay, I don't want to be doing massages back to back to back all day long. I was looking at one of my colleagues who loved it, you know, like couldn't wait to get to the next client's massage. Whereas I was like dragging my feet, taking time out in the back kitchen, like, oh, they can wait another few minutes. They're derobing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well and truly knowing that they're already on the bed, right? You know, so it's not that the industry might not be for you. It's just that maybe massage isn't your specialty. Go to skin, or maybe skin's not your specialty. Go to cosmetics, you know? So I think we have to really, and our industry provides so many pathways and so many doors for us to, well, which allows us to kind of find our feet. You know, if you don't like spa, you can go clinical. Don't like clinical, go derm. Don't like derm, go inject. You know, there's so many different pathways that it's not a one size fits all option anymore, which is just so cool.
That's right. And even with the hands-on, you know, I have friends that, you know, they love the hands-on, but not even, you know, this business development. You can be a content writer, you could be a marketing who specializes in the industry. You can do consulting. It is really endless. It's whatever you want it to be. And I think you kind of, unless you put yourself out there and try different things, you're not going to get that aha moment. I remember when I was first asked to do my TAE, to do my teaching, I thought, I'm not ready for that. And when I was first asked to do content writing for a diploma, I thought, I don't know if I can do that. But then I remember the lady I worked, my last role in the UK before we moved here, wonderful woman. She's got an OBE, very, very self-made, nothing to do with this industry whatsoever. And I remember she said to me once, never say no to an opportunity. You may never get that chance again. Better to try and fail than to say, I'm too frightened, I'm not ready. You never know what that will become. And I hark back to that. And my manager at the time, who I still have the utmost respect for, and that sat with me. And I was scared, you know, I was going to a classroom of students and thinking, oh my goodness, am I ready for this? And I just did it. And I find if you just go, it flows. You've got the knowledge up there. The opportunities don't present. Somebody doesn't give you an opportunity to do something in their business or with their brand if they don't believe that you can do it.
Absolutely. Amen. And you know what? I was just thinking as you were talking, so many of the people that I've promoted or hired or given an opportunity have literally just asked me for it. You know, like I've got a team of 6 now at Beauty, and actually all of them have come to me and said, do you have any jobs going? And I've gone, no, but maybe we can make it, you know, and so many like little moments like that have happened in my career where people have gone, Tamara, I really want to get into education, or Tamara, I'd love to be managing, or I'd love to be in your position. And then when that opportunity comes up, they're the first people that come into my mind, because they've put their hand up. Everyone else, I'm thinking, well, you obviously don't want to do the job because you've never said anything about it before.
That's right. That's how I've got my role now. That's how I've got my role now. It was the back end of last year, and I knew that I'd outgrown where I was working. And I was in a position where I had a few opportunities come to me. And I contacted Deb Farnworth-Wood, and I said, hey, Deb, any chance? I've never worked for her before, never worked for her before, with her before. I said, can I come and see you? Can we have a chat? She was like, yeah, of course. And I went and saw her. And I said, look, I've been offered these few positions. I've got to be completely honest with you, cards on the table. There are only two people in the world that I really want to work for. I said, one of them is Gwyneth Paltrow, the other one is you. She said, let me see what I can do. There was no role, there was no job, there was nothing advertised. She didn't, I went to her and she made it work. It works. I'm in my element. So yes, you've got to put your hand up as well. You can't just, if I hadn't have done that, then I don't know what I'd be doing now. I'd be in the industry somewhere, but I wouldn't be doing what is really in my core, which is what I'm doing now with Deb.
After the break, Sara shares with us the magic of making the most out of your BDM visits. But first, a word about the company Sara has been raving about. Issada Mineral Cosmetics has been at the forefront of high-quality, talc-free mineral makeup in Australia for over 15 years, and if you haven't heard the news, Issada has launched a range of advanced cosmeceutical skincare. Issada Clinical Formula has been developed and tested in a skin clinic to ensure its efficacy in professional treatments and as a sought-after home care retail range. Each skincare product has been formulated with high-performance actives, vitamins, antioxidants, probiotics, and plant extracts for optimal skin health. To learn more about how the Issada mineral makeup and skincare range can benefit your clinic or salon, visit issada.com today. Thank you so much to the team at Issada for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now, back to Sara. Yes. And I want to ask you about being a business development manager, because BDMs, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you get to see the insides of so many different businesses and teams and, personalities. And like business development managers go everywhere from the little sole trader who is out the back in a, what are they called? Like the shipping container out the back of their house, all the way through to like corporate businesses, franchises, head offices. So you get such a good insight into the different businesses that kind of run our industry. I'm curious to know, like, with what you see, is there a common theme to the businesses that do it really successfully? And I'm not just talking about franchise clinics, because I've been into those solo businesses who do have the shipping container out the back. And let me tell you, they are smashing the profit of some of the franchise business. So when I say success, it's not always just like money, but it could be team, or it could be culture, it could be mindset. Like what kind of, similarities do you see in the businesses that you view?
It's consistency. It's 100% consistency. And let me tell you, some of our most successful accounts, salon, spa clinics are sole traders. They're not necessarily the franchises. They're not necessarily the big chains. And what I have found, because it is a small industry, I see and talk to business owners now. Some are the same from in my previous role, which was, it was different. I was working with different It was modalities there that I was working with. And let me tell you, the ones that were consistently failing when I was in my previous company are still consistently failing. The ones that were doing well, the ones that were growing, are still doing well and growing. And I know that a lot of people think it's, a bit of voodoo, hoodoo, but mindset. It's mindset. It's I love coaching. I love having a coach. I love all of that. However, there's a lot of business owners out there that will throw tens of thousands of dollars at having a business coach, and blame the coach for the business not working. And they'll go from coach to coach to coach to coach. I've got one in my head right now, and it was the same story 5 years ago when I first met them.
Mm-hmm.
They're still telling themselves and me the same story, even though we're having different conversations now, because I'm now talking, skincare, skin health, not using equipment. And it's the mentality, I think, and what people's expectations are.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the ones that struggle the most are the ones that are in it. They think they're going to get a quick back from the industry. Let me tell you, you're not.
Yeah, totally. I mean, being in a BDM role myself in the past, you can see the mindset. You've hit the nail on the head, right? Because when you would walk into, I'm just going to black and white say successful versus non-successful, and you can wrap success in whatever you want, right? But when you say like go into somebody who doesn't have a successful business, it's always the blame and the shame, and there's no accountability. It's the outward reflection on like, oh, but them and they're damaging, and the community and the competition and and it's always other people's fault, right? You guys never have enough product in stock. That's why I'm not making enough money, or this business coach did X, Y, and Z, versus when you go into like the successful and thriving businesses, it's like, oh, you don't have that in stock? No worries. We'll just sell this other serum because that's always in stock, or it's like, oh, I don't care what they're doing down the road. Let me tell, like, how can we utilize your marketing resources better, right? Or this is what I want you to do with the team. It was like such polar opposites. And I used to leave going, okay, I totally understand, and fair enough, things do happen to us, which sometimes puts us into, a negative or a positive mindset. But I think for the most part of it, if we do, and I'm going to sound a little bit like a Pollyanna here, like we need to look at the positives of what the situation is. And I know I've said this on the podcast many times before, but if you are given an hour, you should spend 55 minutes looking at what the solution is and 5 minutes looking at what the problem is, not 55 minutes looking at what the problem is and 5 minutes on the solution, right? So it's all about what you do with that time.
Agree. And making the time as well. When with Issada, we want to be there for, and we are there for our all of our partners and stockists. And it's and I hand them. I'm like, come on, chop, chop. We haven't spoken, in a little while. Where are you up to? The ones that are too busy, that don't make the time, they are the ones that aren't succeeding. And I'm not saying that I have the holy grail and the answers to everything, or that, even as a company that we do. But that's the trend that I'm seeing. And it was the same when I was, with the equipment manufacturer. It's all about priorities and that not necessarily just consistency. I think it's about prioritizing, and rather than focusing on how do I get the next $50 in, or how do I sell the next $1,000 package, sit down. Where are we? I'm always blown away at the number of business owners and therapists that do not know their margin or the cost of everything that they do in their business. And it and see that's my forte. I love that. I love the numbers. I love to work things out, get creative with, with what you've got. Let's not look at buying anything more. Let's look at what you've got and we'll funk it up and do all of those things. And it's those people that are open to the conversation. They might say, do you know what, Sarah, that's not going to work. But at least we've explored the opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even to your point before, it's sitting back and having the time to self-reflect on, if you're a business owner, your leadership and the way you show up, your accountability, so don't ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. Being really self-aware of how you come across when you are talking to your clients and talking to your team. Are you in that space of leadership, or are you just following what everybody else is doing as well and putting your therapist hat on? But it's having the time to sit down and understand what was good about that conversation, what was not good, how can we move forward? Or if you've done a campaign of marketing, what worked, what didn't, what are we going to change in the future? But I think our industry is so reactive that we're always like, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, where I think that success comes back to the definition of sitting down and giving things the time and the space. And I think this comes back to almost like a larger conversation, which I believe is that like BDMs are so underutilized, to your point where like, oh, they never talk to me, I have to hound them on the phone. Like,
yes.
You've got a personal coach in your business already. If you've got like 4 or 5 brands in your business, you've got access to 4 or 5 BDMs who know sales, marketing, education, accounting, all of the things. Like, use them.
That's right. And, and I say to all of my my accounts, my stockists, my business owners, I had a call this morning with one, and she won't mind me saying this and all. I said, okay. I said, so this is what we'll do, because we've gone through what was, working, not working, all of these things. I said, so when I come out next, I don't need to see you. I'm going to spend time with your team. It doesn't always have to be with the business owner. There's different needs, like you say, and we can help with okay, I can help you with retailing. I can help this team member with their application. I can help this team member with their knowledge of ingredients. Utilize this, use it. It's part of what you get when you are an Issada partner. If I would say that I spend about 25% of my time trying to hound the people that spend money with us to spend time with us, whether it be with me or with our head makeup trainer, whether it be with Abby. We've all got different skills to say, look, we are here. You're spending all of this money out on all of these other things. Utilize us, use us.
Yeah, I used to be like that as well. I remember starting at my last role before Beauté, which was with a product company. And I got given this list of like 300 accounts, and I phoned them all and introduced myself and said, when can we pencil you in? And I reckon about 20% of people were excited to get the call. Whereas I feel like if I was a business owner and somebody was coming in saying, let me talk to you about business, team, clients, culture, I would be banging on their door. I'd be like, please come into my business. Tell me what you know, rather than being like, oh, it's just another rep. She just wants another coffee. Like, there's so much more.
Oh, 100%. And the way, and I've always been the same, the way that I work. I've never been that hard salesperson, even though I've always been in business development, because that's just not how it works. Find the solutions. Let's see what you've got. I don't want you to bring another line in. Let's master what you've got before you go, oh, I want this new shiny thing that you've got. And it's just great when you do have the business owners or the therapists or the team members that really want to draw on that. I mean, what COVID has done, I guess, is it's made me do a lot more of my work remotely. We've got stockists I work with a lot of stockists in WA, Victoria, and there's one in particular that's jumping out at me. When she first bought the skincare in, she was very nervous. And so we started off and we would do a weekly Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it was. And we would look at the clients she had booked in that week, talk through the potential solutions that she had. And then we've now pushed them out to every month. And this year, in the last 6 months, she has quadrupled her profits just by taking 90 minutes. It started off as 90 minutes once a week, then every 2 weeks, and it's quadrupled. And she's just, I'm going to run a little something on her because I'm just so proud of her. But it's just a prime example of investing the time. BDMs aren't, yes, sales is part of our role. We have KPIs to hit, but we don't focus on the dollar. You know, I've always said this, doesn't matter what industry you're in. Business development is finding solutions, creating opportunity that works for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been talking a bit about mindset and, you know, getting into a positive space and kind of refreshing how you think and your outlook on life. Do you have any mentors or kind of people that you surround yourself with to, you know, help you clear that fog and help you up level in your industry as well?
Well, I mean, I have to say first and foremost, when I approached, I would say hounded or stalked, my now boss, Deb, there was a reason for that. Working for Deb, I get more than a paycheck. You know, every conversation I have with her, I learn something new. So I feel very privileged to have, you know, her on speed dial, so to speak. You know, I've got access to her. I do surround myself with great people in the industry, and if I've had a particularly tough day, and you know, I'm not going to jump on the phone to my boss all the time. Let's not, you know, make it out to be something that it isn't. I'll jump on the phone and I'll, you know, say, oh, hey, what would you have done with this? And I'll debunk. And I do a lot of that with my family. I would say I do more so with my family than with anybody, and they'll really help me see the wood from the trees.
Yeah, very interesting. I think the company you keep just tells all about how you're feeling and the way that you view life and how you kind of go through situations, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. And, you know, one of my best friends, she has her own skincare range. There's no competition. It's not, you know, there's no trade secrets being shared. There's none of that. You know, another one, yes, I found myself, since I've been in the industry, that most of my best friends now are in the same industry. But even in thinking, you know, when I think back to the people I used to work for, you know, when I transitioned into this industry, they're great friends of mine, and I've hounded him for years and said, you should be a coach, you should be doing this, because I know that I've got that advice should I need it on the end of the phone. But I think as I've got older, I've just got a lot better at dealing with those days because you do have the days where you get annihilated. Sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you'll miss something off an order, or, you know, that it happens, we're all human. But I find that for me, I love yoga, I love meditation. And I want to say journaling, but I don't know that that's the right word. I just jot things down. And since I've been able to do that electronically and file my notes, what a game changer that has been in my life. So I kind of have my own little practices that I put in place as well.
Yeah, gorgeous. Well, Sara, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me today. I think there's so much value in this conversation. I think every BDM is just going to be nodding along as they listen to this conversation. And I hope that every business owner picks up the phone or grabs their email and sends a little email off to their BDM, their account manager, their sales rep, whatever you want to call it, and utilizes them.
Definitely, that's what we are here for. And we're only successful when you're successful. We want you to be successful. We're not trying to sell you the latest fad, this, that, or the other. We are here to help.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sara. Really appreciate your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Tamara.
One of the best parts about doing these interviews is hearing about all of the people's career pathways, and I just love learning about how people made the move from A to B and ended up at C, and then watching the projection of the rest of the alphabet as they travel through their career. I hope this episode inspired you at whichever stage of your industry career you're at, and hey, if it did, please show someone else who might enjoy the listen. You can check out more from Sara and Issada over on the gram at Issada Cosmetics, and we of course live over at Beauté Industries. If you know of somebody who we absolutely must speak to on the podcast, please send me a DM over at Tamara Reed Beauté, and we could be chatting to them on the next episode of the podcast in no time. Until next time, stay connected.